I wanted to ask you, what do you think is one of the biggest threats to the movement right now?
Reducitarianism, I think.
Mm.
And there's several strands to it. There's the perennial problem of people thinking and saying that veganism is a diet. A lot of journalists think that. Well, where do they get that from? They essentially get it from looking at the older newspaper clippings and footage, which says that.
Mm.
We're not very good at kind of correcting that. But the problem is we often say it or imply it anyway. There's reasons why people focus on what people eat in terms of numbers of other animals oppressed and all that. So we understand that. But in terms of philosophy, it's not really a diet thing. The diet follows the values. Another problem is that there's a lot of people trying to redefine veganism. There's a lot of people now trying to include products derived from other animals as part of veganism. And their rationale is that if you did that, you make the vegan movement larger. And that, they would call people like me as a kind of purist, right?
Yeah.
And they would say, oh, you want the smallest movement in the world. Well, no, actually, I want the largest movement in the world, but I want this movement made up of vegans. And then the final thing about reducitarianism is the animals only type. And that worries me, the sense that there are some people, I think it's only a minority, but for some reason, they want to suggest that veganism is about other animals, and that's all. The answer to that is that the focus of veganism is that. But there's always been a scope which was wider than that and incorporated issues like, human evolution. As I said, Watson's saying you can save humanity through veganism. Leslie Cross talked about the massive benefits of veganism to humanity. The pioneers of our movement cared about humans. They wanted to get us out of that trough because they cared about them. They talked about human emancipation, that if we liberate other animals, it kind of liberates your mind, and that means that we liberate ourselves. Mm. And so it was all entangled for them. Watson said, well, look, we're not going to get one without the other, and veganism has got to be central to all of it. That type of reducitarianism worries me a lot. At the moment, there's a vocal minority, I think, in the movement that are like that. The other weird thing about it, Seb, is I don't understand their rationale, because having a focus and a scope doesn't damage the focus. Mm. Now, they're fearful that people will say, oh, don't do that animal thing, do this human thing. Well, nobody in the movement does that. Do you ever know anybody that trots along and says, well, actually, there's a human rights march down there. That's where we should be. We shouldn't be doing this. No, nobody does that, right? And so their fears seem to me to be unfounded and a bit irrational.